And ladies and gentlemen, my name is Arcane Static, and today we're talking about Bendy and the Ink Machine, in a segment that I like to call Fuck You, You're Wrong, and Here's Why. Listen, here's how Bendy and the Ink Machine works. In order for a game to be a game, it has to have some kind of interactive aspect to it, and a goal that can be reached. If that goal is set out for you, as in the case with games like God of War, kill all the other gods, or GoldenEye, kill all the other not James Bonds, that's fine. You can also set a goal for yourself, as in the case of games like Minecraft, build a scale model of a circulatory system or whatever, or just draw dicks in the dirt, or No Man's Sky, except nobody plays this game anymore. Okay, so Bendy and the Ink Machine fits this trope. You can interact by moving and sometimes attacking with an axe, sometimes picking up items or pushing buttons. So Bendy and the Ink Machine is a game. After that point, it kind of goes in a particular direction I've seen a few games recently go. It spends all its points in character creation leveling up its story and leaves very little for its gameplay. The story and world behind Bendy and the Ink Machine is pretty cool, minus all the bad things about it, on which we will definitely touch. However, the gameplay is boring, uninspired, tedious, and outright ill-planned. Hear me out. Say you've played the game before, but want to play it again to check out the secrets you can find. Excited, you boot up a new game and get to work. In Chapter 1, the only real gameplay is wandering around to find the 6 items you know you need for the power room, right? Everything else is a semi-guided cinematic where you walk around in the middle of it, so you get to the bit where you have to collect things. You've played the game before. You know where the items are, right? Wrong! You will have to spend the same 20 to 30 minutes traipsing around the whole damn studio, looking in inconspicuous tiny nooks and crannies to find them again, because they change locations every time. You could memorize the 4 locations each item can spawn in, and draw out a map of the gameplay board that hits all of the possible locations for each item in the shortest amount of time possible to grab all of them with the least amount of tedium, but that itself takes more work than playing a game like this one should require. But Vincent, I hear you say, that's called replay value and makes the game interesting to play more than once. Fuck you, no it doesn't, and here's why. A game with replay value is fun to play after you've played it once. It has mechanics built into itself that make the game challenging, or it changes the outcomes of the game, or it offers you actual decisions to make at all. It allows you to play through the same content with a different player experience of some sort, one that's rewarding in the end because it was an experience that changed. Some aspect of the game must be enjoyable more than once for it to be replayable. Bendy and the Ink Machine does that. You have to find the locations of the items which are in different— Shut up! That's not replayability. That's tedium. So what if the record is by the bookcase this time instead of under the table? What changed about the experience? You walked around the same workshop to get the same 6 items from slightly different places, and nothing about the experience changed, except for that now you've wasted the same 30 minutes as the first time you wandered aimlessly around the workshop, retracing your steps 8 times. The switches to open the door in Chapter 2? Same thing. The keys in the wastebasket? Same thing. The order in which you play the instruments to open the door to the recording studio? Bloody same thing. The gameplay isn't replay value, it's forcing the game to take a long time, so the people who complain about games being too short won't have that leg to stand on. It's an artificial lengthener of gameplay time, which is bad game design at its finest. It's like putting sawdust in your sausages. People who complain about the grind in JRPGs should feel this one in particular. This is literally no different from being forced to grind to level up because you're not a high enough level to beat the boss. It stretches the content in the game out so that less content can be experienced over a longer period of time, artificially jacking up the time spent over good game quotient. It also does not help for when people like me making videos on the thing have to go through the whole damn thing every time just to get the specific footage that we need for a 7-second clip in the video. Especially great is that the game doesn't seem to have a save feature, which means that if you turn the game off, whoops, start the chapter over again, ha 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 ha. Fuck. But Vincent, it's still a great horror game. Fuck you, no it isn't, and here's why. Horror games are meant to instill a sense of dread in the player, a feeling that some terrible, overwhelming thing is going to happen and there's very little you can do about it. Games like Resident Evil, before it got to be a survival action game with zombies in it incidentally, do this really well. You've got guns, yes, but they're scarce. Ammunition is scarcer, zombies don't generally care a lot about being shot, and there are way more zombies than there are bullets. You will be overwhelmed if you don't play cleverly and resourcefully and just try to go in guns blazing. Guns are not the point of that. Even if you have a gun, it doesn't make a difference because the horror is in the overwhelming in these games. Games like Outlast 2 don't even give you any means to defend yourself against the religious hick nutters in the mountains, so you have to rely on being resourceful and sneaky because the threats that are presented will definitely kill you. I didn't even like Outlast 2, and it's a good game from many standpoints. Well ahead of the curve in terms of it against Bendy and the Ink Machine. Bendy and the Ink Machine is a horror game you literally cannot fail at for more than half of the available game. In the first chapter, there are literally no threats at all. Bendy coming at you from the door to the ink machine? Nope, that's an ineffectual jump scare with no actual effect on the gameplay. Literally no threats exist in the first chapter. The only reason you are in the workshop at all after seeing the weird stuff start to happen is because the door got locked behind you. Listen, Henry, you might be kinda old maybe, but this door has not been replaced or maintained for 3 decades, and the humidity from the ink in the place has to have softened the door jamb. Just kick it near the latch and fucking leave. The only threat in the first chapter is the threat of me dying from boredom as I mindlessly walk back and forth down the same hallways over and over looking for a goddamn vinyl record. But Vincent, there's monsters in combat in Chapter 2. That makes it— fuck you, no there aren't, and here's why. What we get in Chapter 2 is the Searchers, the ink monsters that pop out of the puddles on the ground and try to attack you by flinging themselves at your body, and will self-destruct if they touch you, or literally anything else. These are not monsters, they are the equivalent of a preschool kid who's lonely. In the several times that I've played through this chapter, they've never killed me once. Yes, they can quote-unquote kill you, but when you die, you lose no progress. There's no consequences for the death, and you go on as normal. This lends credence to my theory about dimensional travel, actually. When you get covered by the ink from the other dimension, it transports you through that dimension and spits you out at that messy pentacle, probably slightly less sane for the experience. Oh no, whatever. You didn't lose any of the things you've done, what's the point? And when Bendy chases you at the end of the chapter, literally no consequences there either. You just redo if he catches you. The screen cuts to black really quickly and bam, you're back to being where you were tied up a minute ago. It's like Prince of Persia, but without the bits that make it a good game. No threats. If there is something that can affect you, it just moves your character to a slightly different part of the map, with no repercussions. Not really a horror game, unless you're afraid of never making any meaningful decisions in your life. But Vincent, the story is really good. Fuck you, no it's not, and here's why. This game has no internal consistency. The story is that you come to a studio that you apparently know has been deserted for 30 years, to see something your old boss wants you to see, but when you get there, the door is apparently unlocked and nobody is there. So you go inside, but then the door is locked behind you, so you know something fishy is going on. Ha, whatever, lol. Let's traipse around this literally ruined building with stuff that falls from the ceiling and black wet ink puddles everywhere. Walk through hallways that are curiously a foot lower than the rest of the studio floors for no discernible reason, but you happen to be filled with ink because why not? Let's find the 6 objects that you need to advance the plot, except you only know about 6 people having been in the studio with what could have been termed workstations, and you were one of them, but the event that required the donation of those items must have happened after you left the company, so you could not have possibly been one of the donors. Let's play with the idea that you left the company 30 years ago, when it went under and disbanded, but somehow there was also time where the company was still producing cartoons and paying paying people with money that must have come from somewhere after you left. Let's think about how much time it would have taken to completely retrofit this whole studio with pipes and hoses full of ink, and what kind of workers would be necessary to have done it. That costs money as well, but where does the money come from? We know that the cartoons aren't getting finished, probably because not only did your lead animator, which is you, leave the company, but your other animator is building a techno-magic ink machine to bring cartoons to life and use occult rituals to cross over into their reality. Let's talk about how Henry's voice is that of a 25-year-old, but he was a professional animator at this company, a co-founder, and that was 30 years ago or more. Henry has to be like 50 at the absolute lowest age, more likely like 60 or so. Let's talk about how the ink machine is turned off, and when it gets turned back on, we see Bendy show up, but there's like a mini cult led by this cultist and ink latex fetishist Sammy Lawrence, dedicated to the Bendy monster, who he says he's seen before in an audio log. Let's talk about how the jump button is completely irrelevant. Let's talk about how this game's story isn't even written yet. The Meatly, while he's a great dude and makes funny comics, has no idea what to do with this world yet, and is constantly rethinking and rewriting the world and the story based on what the players say and think and contribute. The fact that a fan-made song was put into the game, one which makes some strong suppositions about the story of the game so far. What? Is that song canon now? Is that the story we're supposed to believe? Or do you just not know yet? Why is the timeline so muddled up? When you hit a Bendy cutout with an axe, it breaks, but then it reforms the second you're not looking at it. Okay, whatever, that's fine, Bendy's a demon or some shit, but what excuse do the random wood planks that are around have for doing the exact same thing? Why are they also infinitely regenerating? It makes no sense. It forces the theorist part of my brain to jump to such conclusions as shit like, the studio is in a perpetual state of fixed timeline cycling that causes everything to go back to the way it was before it started being observed by the player, which means that the world in which this game takes place is in a solipsistic wasteland where nothing ever changes unless it's under constant surveillance. What nonsense! Poor game design should not be the reason for outlandish and bombastic theories. Man, I didn't realize how much I disliked this game until I started writing this script. If this were an Alpha Dreadful video, I'd have given this game a really low score. Now, as it is with anything I say commenting on a game in any respect, this is my opinion. You can like the game or not, I don't think what I say has to hold any sway over your own opinions or beliefs. However, I hope that we can both agree that this game is not the shining light in the darkness, the godly game that a lot of fans will claim. With all that said, and all of my vitriol for the game out of the way, I'm not done talking about this game. I'll keep on analyzing it and making suppositions and theories and wild speculations on it until I don't have any more ideas about it at all. So look forward to some stuff about the sort of weird cult-like activity that Sammy displays in the next video. Oh, Jesus. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, the like and subscribe buttons are waiting just below this video to be a more interactive experience than Bendy and the Ink Machine. You can also follow my socials. That's the Facebook and Twitter that are in the description box. I also have an official Discord server now, which I will go on and chat with you guys if that's something that you want. Anyway, there's that. You can also help me make more videos like this one by throwing some support my direction at the Patreon link that's down there as well. A huge thanks to new patron Lee Love for hopping onto the theorist train here. I really appreciate it. Of course, this goes back to Kay and Scott and Michael and Adam also as well. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support me through all of this as well. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I'm making enough good stuff for you guys to feel like you're getting what it's worth to be my patron. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.